The number one Neville Goddard lesson that people completely miss. It has nothing to do with sats. It's not more sats. Sats. Has nothing to do with visualizing. It's about something that we do every day, even without thinking about it. It's on autopilot. So in this video, we're gonna uncover that, to how this can be really something that can transform your manifestations and make it a lot easier for you to embody one of the biggest lessons that Neville talked about, and what his main message was feeling the wish fulfilled, that your desire was already yours. So what it's costing you in not doing this thing that we're going to uncover and unpack here is, most of you have tried to do visualizing in terms of sats, and I was one of them, where you would read, and I've read every book. This is Neville Goddard's Treasury, every book he's ever written. So I've read this over probably like 3 different times, and a lot of nuggets each time I read it. But one of his biggest things was sats. And you hear everyone talk about, like, oh, you have to get in the state of kin to sleep. Do this right before you fall asleep, right before you go to bed. You have to get in the act, see it, feel the chair, feel the things that you want, feel the car that you want to drive, and all that stuff, and see yourself in it as vividly as possibly as you can to all your senses, according to what Neville teaches, right? And here's the big problem. I'm sure most of you feel this way too when you do this. You don't end up doing it at all. Sometimes you just fall straight to sleep and you're like, crap, I didn't even do my imaginal act. Or you get to the point where you start getting the image of it and it starts coming into focus, and then it just all of a sudden gets blurry and you don't have the image of it. You can't hold it. Now you're frustrated. Now you're trying to relax yourself and get back into a state where you're relaxed and trying to get the imaginal act going all over again, but you just can't seem to accomplish that at all. Like, you just get irritated. Now you're going to bed frustrated. That's another problem that's costing you, because what you're doing is now you're going to bed with that frustration and that anger, and then it just builds up over your 8 hours of sleep. That's not helping you at all. So, or you try doing the state of kin to sleep and you just end up counting sheep. Or, what happened to me all the time was I would get the imaginal act maybe for a brief second, and then I would get like an itch, or my neck would start hurting, and then I would just turn over and, like, crap, now I got to do this thing all over again. What were they wearing? What color was that car? What was I wearing? Where was I? What did the place look like? And having to do the whole process again, to the point where I was just like, screw it, F it, I'm not doing it anymore. Like, sats just is not for me. But here is where reading this book, nuggets started popping out. Something stuck out to me very, very, very much, that I was like, the epiphany, the light bulb went off. And once I tried this changed everything for me. You hear inner conversations a lot. Neville talks about inner conversations, having, the congratulatory method. I'm sure if you're a fan of Neville, you've heard of these things before. And you've heard other people probably tell you, but what they don't tell you is they don't give you context into why it works. And I wish Neville, he does slightly in the book, The Freedom for All, that he wrote in 1942. But he called it something that was what caught my attention this time around when I read it. Now, when I say this time around, this was a couple years ago. But when I had come about this, he called it the Annunciation of Angels. And that made me stop for a second. I was like, well, Annunciation of Angels, this sounds pretty damn good. What is this? And all he was really referring to in the book Freedom for All, and if you want to get the book Freedom for All, I highly recommend it. Or you can probably find this at Amazon, or Barnes & Noble's was where I bought this one a couple years ago. And it's his whole entire works. And in the Freedom for All, it's chapter 9, if you want to look at it, he talks about the Annunciation of Angels and how he attributes that to a friend's voice, and which would be inner conversations, right? But he says, like, you would hear a friend tell you or congratulate you in the thing that you want to be, to do, or to have an experience. And you would feel that in the feeling of it, instead of just trying to do an imaginal act or what have you. And so I thought, well, this sounds a lot easier if I can just go this way and do that and then get in that feeling. Perhaps there's something to that. That is just besides just an inner conversation. Because whenever I would do that, and I heard some, people tell, when I was on my early part of this, and I would hear people say, oh, do the inner conversation, I would try to do it, but where I was doing it wrong was the key indicator why it wasn't working. So, and I'm sure you guys have probably tried it. If you're here, I imagine, the imaginal acts, the inner conversations, and things just didn't click. Things just weren't working. You didn't feel the embodiment of it. You couldn't feel in the state of the wish fulfilled, because what you're probably experiencing is what I was experiencing, was more frustrated in doing these things because things weren't happening. It would keep me looking outside like, okay, did I do sets right? I must have not have been doing sets right because nothing's here. And it didn't put me in the focus of already having it, already being it, embodying it, now feeling the wish fulfilled is what Neville really mainly teaches. And so this is what I did differently. So when I came across this again, rereading the book, and I read that and use a friend's voice like he mentions in the Freedom for All book, I said, you know what? Perhaps I'll just do this not in the way that I want them to tell me, but how they normally speak. Now, outside of manifestation and coaching of that degree, I also do real estate coaching. And I also get paid to teach people how to do negotiations on real estate. And one of the biggest things I tell them to do is I say, speak from your own inner voice. We'll get to that in a second. So I'll say, speak to your own inner voice, how you normally talk. What is your dialect? If you use slang, use the same slang that you would in your conversations and your negotiations. Why? Because it's going to be something that you're naturally going to say. And so when an objection would come up from whether it be a client or a customer, you would have the right answer because it's something that's inherently in you that you would normally say anyway. And so when I started reading that, the Annunciation of Angels part again, and then I was thinking of what I teach my students in real estate negotiations, I thought, well, holy hell, maybe I should just fuse those together and see what happens. So instead of me trying to hear a friend tell me what I want to hear, which that does happen, we'll get to that later. What I started to do was, how does my friend normally talk? What would my friend normally say in this situation? Here's the thing. Let's say I am manifesting, if you're manifesting a new career, right? And you're not in your current, you're in your current job, you're not happy, you want a new career, you want to level up to a new promotion, you know you deserve it, you know you're more than enough for it, but it just hasn't happened yet. So instead of hearing a future boss congratulate you, oh, you are everything we're looking for. Have your friend, a coworker, somebody that would normally tell you in that circumstance, that's the key, that would normally tell you in this circumstance, congratulate you, but not just congratulate you, but the way that they would say it. So like, for example, I have a friend who talks with a lot of slang. Like, damn, dude, you got that job? Man, I knew you'd get it, bro. Of course you got it, bro. That's the way he talks. So I would hear him say these things to me in the way that he would say it. And what do you know? Those things actually happen. And the way that he would say it actually happened, came about. But man, did I do sats? No. Did I worry about the imaginal act? No. What did I do? I heard the Annunciation of Angels. Now, I'm going to give some examples here in detail on how this worked and how this watch is a testament to this Annunciation of Angels. But there's one thing that I wanted to feel motivated in it. Everything that I do, realizing that anything that you want in this life happens, and you can have and do and achieve anything that you want, but it's all based on who you're being and the feeling of that embodiment of who you're being. That's number one. So in order to have that feeling and that embodiment of it, I need to feel empowering to me. It's going to feel motivating to me, not something that everyone just says or does. It's got to motivate me inside of me. This is just the way that I am. I want to feel encouraged, right? Even especially when things may seem challenging or hard with a reflection that is just not appealing or pleasing to me. Knowing that I can change it, but you need, sometimes you might need that little extra gusto. And this is what I did to just even the naming of it, with renaming it. So Neville calls it Inner Conversations, Annunciation of Angels, right? Most people in the space call it Inner Conversations. To me, that sounds delulu, well, of course. And then Annunciation of Angels sounds very churchy. So that's what they say. Nick Gonzalez, Alignment of I Am, says, voice of victory. That sounds pretty damn good to me. And I hear these voices of victory. Why? Because it's something that's already done. I know that I have it. I know that I'm already it now. And it's a victory now. Not then, not later, not in the future, now. So it's a voice of victory, already praising the battle won, right, is mine now. So voice of victory is what I like to call it. Now, how I use this voice of victory to where it could be an avalanche of abundance, which is a Dr. Joseph Murphy term, is, and how this watch was an example of this. Well, there was a time 2 years ago, and I'm going to give you this example because it's a really good one, and then one that just happened this week. So the one that was 2 years ago happened where I was, and I do a lot of freelancing work. And at this point I had, lost a couple of jobs, lost a couple of clients, and it was just like, man, things are kind of slow. I could really use a boost of something else. And I didn't worry. Even though bills were piling up, I just said, everything's paid for, everything's in full. But what I did hear is a friend of mine, just how he speaks and says, hey, you're a great fit for this opportunity. I threw your name in the hat and they loved you. You're the best thing that happened to their company. I didn't know what opportunity, what that meant. I just kept hearing him say that, right? And it didn't matter. I didn't have to do it at any time. I just did it whenever I wanted to. And it didn't have to take long, a couple of minutes, in fact. And he would say that. And I would just hear him say that to me. And then I would hear family tell me, oh my God, how did that just happen? Wow, that just fell in your lap. That's amazing. I had no idea what it was. 2 weeks after this was happening, and without looking for it, my friend called me. His name's Brandon. He called me and he said, hey, Nick, listen, there's this really good opportunity that came up. Unfortunately, this job was offered to me. I can't do it. I'm already contracted with another company. However, I recommended, and I threw your name in the hat, exactly what I heard, the way that he talks. I threw your name in the hat and you seem like you're a great fit for it. They're excited to talk to you. Well, that ended up turning out to be a $3,500 a month deal, right? Independent contracting, $3,500 a month, out of nowhere. Great, awesome. Of course this happened. I heard this with the Voice of Victory. It was already done. Where this gets better is their management was kind of off. And I thought, you know what, man, I know I could do a better job than this guy. And even my friend Brandon would tell me, yeah, you can actually run this a lot better. You're in this position now, but who knows? You could probably get that other position, which was their management running their whole thing. So I went from someone doing their sales operation to being the CFO, really, of the operations. I was the operator of the whole entire company. That was offered to me a month later. But I heard him tell me, like, dude, they love how you run it. You did it better. You changed their systems and they loved it. It increased their business. It increased their lead flow. Their sales, or their guys are getting coached on the negotiation aspects of things. You did a wonderful job, man. You knocked it out of the park. And a month later, that job was offered to me. So in a month, I went from $3,500 to an $8,500 salary job. Pretty damn nice, huh? Now, where this watch comes into play is in this time, even before getting the freelance job at $3,500, before even getting promoted to the $8,500 salary, I was wanting a watch. I love watches. I absolutely adore watches of all different price ranges. I love them all, mainly for their history and what they've achieved in horology. I'm a big fan of horology. So but this time I had bought an Omega Seamaster. I'm a big James Bond fan, right? And I had bought an Omega Seamaster and I thought, man, this is, I love this watch. This is it. But I bought it secondhand. I didn't have the funds to get something brand new. And I said, you know what? I want to be able to have the experience of buying one brand new without worrying about it, without knowing I have more than enough, and experience what it feels like to buy this particular watch and go through it. Well, I started having the Voice of Victory of just, man, dude, that watch is killer. Oh, dude, you got that watch because it signifies something to you. Now, keep this in mind, signifies something to you. Yeah, this watch means something to me. And when you're doing the Voice of Victory, you can respond in your head too to them. Have that inner conversation, but don't make it drastic. Don't make it like it's a 10-minute, 15-minute long phone conversation or something. Just have that conversation. Give one response back. And I would say, like, yeah, man, this means a lot to me because it shows what I'm capable of. This is something to me that means that to me, that I've earned it. And now keep this in mind. So when this came about, I heard, my mother was the one, I was hearing my friend tell me, but my mother was the one that said, you should signify this promotion. This is amazing. This salary bump and this promotion, you're running this company and you're making this money, it's incredible. Like, you should do something, treat yourself. I thought, you know what? Yeah, I should. And I wasn't even thinking the watch. I was thinking maybe a vacation, maybe something, entirely different. And I walked into this watch store and I was looking, I wanted a Rolex, not just because it's Rolex, but I wanted a Rolex Explorer. It's the watch that reached Mount Everest. It's a unbelievable watch with its historical facts. And so I just didn't want it for the name. I wanted it for what it signifies to me. And I thought, man, I really want that watch. Let me go see if they have that. Well, I went and there's, of course, like a 14-month waiting list. So I was like, no, I'm not doing this. But what I did get was the Tudor Black Bay Pro GMT, which is like the Rolex Explorer, but this one tells 2 different time zones. Why this is important? Because with my promotion, not only did I have a staff here in the United States, but I had a staff in the Philippines of 26 virtual assistants. So now I had something to run 2 different time zones and keep track of everything, where we were, when guys were coming into work, when the VAs should be working. I had the ability to track that. But it all came about from inner conversations, from the voice of victory, and feeling that and knowing that, yeah, I have this. And so where that just turned into one thing, turned into another thing, to another thing, and it just kept building momentum. It just kept growing and growing and growing from there. Now, fast forward to where I said there was one that's very recent that happened this week. My sister has 3 kids, and one of them, I'm not going to say that she has ADHD because I'm not going to assume that or claim that in my reality. She's just full of joy and energy, and she has so much heart in her. She's a loving, beautiful little girl, but she's just very energetic. Well, in the school that she's in right now, there were some complications. They couldn't fulfill the needs that she needed to help further her along in her development, in her education, and get her taught up. Well, it's almost the end of school year, so it's almost virtually impossible to try to find movement into another school, right? Well, my sister started looking to a private school that would be a perfect fit for her. Well, contacting this private school, there was a 2-year wait. So they had a long waiting list that was spanning of 2 years. And they basically said, it's virtually impossible. I'm sorry, you can apply and see if you qualify. And if you do, we'll add you to the list. And if something opens up, when it's your turn, we'll let you know. But that's the best that we can do. We're fully stacked. There's no way. It's impossible. And when she starts telling me that, I heard that. I was like, nothing's impossible to God. Absolutely. God and me, nothing's impossible. So without telling anybody what I'm doing, without saying, I'm going to handle this for you, or I'm going to try to do this for you, I just kept going in the inner conversation of and the voice of victory, of hearing my sister say, I don't know how it happened, but she got in. I have no words. I don't know how it happened. I would hear my mom tell me, I'm just so thankful. I'm so happy. I'm crying. It's unbelievable. How could this even happen? It just worked out better than expected. And keep this in mind when I say this, better than expected, okay? So this was happening about 3.5 weeks ago, right? But the big reveal happened this week. So 3 weeks ago, this is happening. I start hearing them say these things in the way that they would talk. Not what I want to hear, just hearing their voice in the way that they talk, and that's it. Leave it alone. Once I hear that, it's done. I don't have to look. I just trust and know that it's done. It's already finished. Already done. And that's literally all I'm doing. And so a couple of days go by, and my sister says, hey, there's actually a school that we're able to get her into, but it's on the other side of town. It's in downtown, and she has 3 kids. So that would mean she would go to 3 different locations in the morning, which was already chaotic enough just to, I'm sure most of you watching who have kids, or even if you don't, just getting to work at one place, one location in the morning with traffic is just a pain in the butt. Well, she was having, at this point, would have to be doing 3 schools at this point. So she got into the school. She's been going there for about the last 2.5 weeks. Now, this Wednesday, which I'm filming is Saturday. So this past Wednesday, there's a text message that comes through on a family thread. And it's my brother-in-law saying, I'm happy to announce that, I'm not gonna say the names, but the daughter got into that private school, the one that they wanted. The one that was 2 years of a long wait list. The one that was impossible. The one that was, you can't get in. It's just, there's just no way. Well, she got in. So where it was virtually impossible to have anybody get into school for 2 years, much less just her, she got accepted and her brother got accepted. And it worked out better than expected. And it all came from Voice of Victory. And they all said literally what I heard. I have no other words. My mom, I'm crying. It worked out better than expected. Oh my God, just better than expected. And that's all she kept repeating was better than expected. And I'm crying. It's exactly what I heard because I know my mom. I know that's what she would probably say. So I heard it in her voice and how she would react. All those things came about. So do this in the context that people don't tell you is you have to hear it the way that they speak. What would their emotions be? And just hear that voice and feel that. Because what it's going to do is it's going to embody the feeling of that wish fulfilled. And you're going to just feel good knowing that it's already done. And that's all you have to do. I want you to understand something. SATs and imaginal acts and all that stuff, visualization, all those things and the purpose of them is just to invoke an emotionally charged feeling of what you would be if that desire was already here, and right now. It's nothing magical about the visualization. It's just trying to invoke the feeling and give you that emotional charge of it already being completed. For me, the visualization sometimes works, sometimes doesn't, but I don't force it. I want it to be fun. And what's easier for me is the Voice of Victory. And it works every single time. So before I'm going to let you go, I'm going to give you the SATs hack. And this is the way that I kind of do SATs, but not doing SATs at the same time. So here's the tip. So I do this for about 10 to 15 minutes before I go to bed. And I get into a good state. I try to get into a theta state of mind as best I can. And I set a timer on my phone too for 15 minutes and I'll go past that. But what I do is right before I'm going to do this, I take 2 melatonins, and usually the melatonins hit me about 20, 30 minutes in. So perfect amount of time. So I get into the state of akin to sleep, if you will, by getting into the feeling of the wish fulfilled by the voice of victory. Hearing those things of the congratulations, of the achievements, the accomplishments, what's already mine, and feeling that embodiment now. And by the time I'm done with my voice of victories for 15 minutes, I'm ready for bed. And I sleep wonderfully for 8 hours. And I go to sleep in that feeling. So it's the sat sack, if you will. I don't know what else to call it. This right before sleep. You don't have to do this with your eyes closed or your eyes open. You don't have to just do it in the morning. You can do it at any part, anytime, any day. It doesn't matter if you're in your car, doesn't matter anything. And people could be around you and you can hear something different. Now, even if someone's talking to you and it's something you don't want to, like, you're not telling me, and that's not the way it works in my world, my reality, you can hear them say it instantly different. You know, another key thing to do is if you have an argument with your partner or a coworker or a client, and you're just arguing in your head about it, you're already doing inner conversations. It's already working against you, right? So you already have an aspect of already doing that. Just do this in your favor. So instead of rehearsing things that you're gonna argue about when you get to see the person and just bleh, and of course, what happens? It happens exactly the way that you did your inner conversation. Your voice of victory was actually just a voice of chaos. So don't turn your voice of victory into a voice of chaos. Keep it as your voice of victory. Keep your inner conversations, your Annunciation of Angels into your voice of victory. And watch your world blow up in favor of you in the most miraculous, easiest ways possible. Thank you for tuning into Alignment of I Am. I am Nick Gonzalez. I think it, I speak it, I know it, therefore I am. And you are too. I'll see you on the next one.